Very good.
So another one we get a lot, and it comes shortly after people ask us what cybersecurity is, when we say, well, we like to do defense in depth. Explain to us, Bob, what is defense in depth?
So defense in depth was, I'm not so sure you could say we invented it, but we have, we've certainly taken advantage of what it means. And what that is there is no, to your point, there's no 100% guarantee that anybody is going to be protected 100%. They're never going to get breached. It's very hard to use those words. But the way to get as close as possible to that 100% protection is to have multiple layers. You mentioned earlier multi-factor authentication. Okay, in order to be able to turn on and get on your computer, multi-factor authentication ought to be a roadblock to say, I'm challenging you to get on your machine. Okay, once you have that machine up and running, you should only have certain rights to get to certain data that you need to do your job. Not everybody should be an administrator. It ought to be ratcheted down. There ought to be tools in place to protect that machine. Next generation endpoint protection, what everybody used to call antivirus. Advanced threat detection. We're looking for guys that have whittled their way into the environment and are maybe sitting there dormant or looking and researching and performing reconnaissance on your network. Okay, we want to be able to find them before they can do bad things. ATD can do that. We want to have the right protection for your data, backup and recovery. All of these layers, DNS filtering, there's all sorts of tools and implementation that we put in place so that if somebody gets in, we can quarantine them, we can isolate them. It's not going to be the, oh my God, 142 machines got infected. I've got to rebuild them all because I didn't know the problem had existed. I was never alerted to that fact. One of the things we use is a security operations center to constantly look at logs and detect problems. Compare information coming from the firewall, from the servers and the desktops to what's going on the switches and the Wi-Fi. Wow, that's funny. Those three things that are happening right now never go together. What's going on? Look at it, alert on it, and basically isolate and try to limit damage. Back to the can't do 100%, but limit it once something happens. And I think that's the defense in depth, is a layer on top of a layer on top of a layer, so it makes it as challenging as possible for somebody to try to get into an environment and throw up their hands and the threat actor goes someplace else. You say, I can't get in there, I can't do what I want to do on that network, I'm just going to move on. And I think those layers really make defense in depth a thing.
Yeah, each layer individually does some risk reduction. However, all the layers together dissuade a threat actor to go somewhere else, and ultimately reduce what they call the attack surface.
That's right.
By closing up different holes or methods that a threat actor would use to try to get into an
I
organization.
think that's what's most important, is try to limit the amount of holes. The attack surface is a common term that we use. And the more you can limit it, the harder it is for them to get in, and the less of a target you really are, whether you believe you are or not. That's how they see it from the outside.